Good morning. Well, it's easy to do when you have a daughter who's now an adult and married. So, watching that little girl grow up, but it all started with Lori and I. We got married, and it was November 8th, 1986. So we're going on 34 years of marriage. And thank you. She's put up with me that long. You believe that? So anyway, so I'm Tom, and but anyway, Tori, she's gonna be 27 next month, July 31st, and she's a blast. She is. She's got a great sense of humor. She's quick-witted. I mean, whenever she comes over now with Andrew to visit us, and stuff, we just have a blast, and sometimes we gang up on Lori, and but. Back in July 31st, 1993, when I became a dad, holding that little girl in my arms, at that time, life wasn't too easy. I didn't have the Lord. I call that my BC days, before Christ. And so, watching her grow up, and next thing you know, she's in diapers, and she's wobbling around the living room, and sometimes at night we would have ice cream, and Lori would be over there feeding Tori her ice cream, and when she got done, she'd come over to me and help me eat my ice cream. So that's one of the loves that Tori and I share, is ice cream, because we're both like fanatics over it. Pizza too. We both like pizza a lot, can't you tell? But when she was around probably 7 or 8, I tried to turn her into a tomboy. I took her fishing, and matter of fact, we skipped church. I was like, I told her, I said, "Hey, Tori, you want to skip church today and go fishing?" And she's like, "Mom will get mad." And I was like, "No, she won't." So I took her fishing. We went down on the pier and we sat, and she was more interested in the minnows in the bucket. And every time a minnow would go belly up, "Dad, another minnow's Dad. That's 3. And I'm like, "Yeah, honey, that happens, And then we're sitting there, and pretty soon, "Dad, what, honey? There's another one." I'm like, "Yeah." And so that was my fishing trip. She had no interest in her pole, the water. She was interested in those minnows dying. So, the other thing I taught her was, she got really good at was, I could pitch a softball or a baseball to her, and she could hit that thing pretty good. We had a huge backyard back in Ohio, and she got really good at that. And then, which also interested her in baseball. Me, I'm a baseball freak. I'm a Cleveland Indians fan. I'm also a Cleveland Browns fan, born and raised, and Ohio State. And but Tori and I, we love, I think it was last year or year before, Tori got us tickets. Oh yeah, that's an Ohio winter, our backyard. But for Father's Day, I got a ticket to go to the Indians game up in Cleveland, and we sat at third base line. We were 7 rows up from the line, so we had great seats. Unfortunately, they lost, and so now down here, when we try to go to Bats games, so that's always fun. Tori also has a music bug. I play drums. I also play guitar. I sing. I mess around with the bass a little bit, and Tori has that bug too. So I think she was like 3 or 4. I had my drum set up in our spare bedroom, and she would go back there, climb up on the seat, and she would play "We Will Rock You." And I taught her how to do it on the floor tom and hit the snare. And next thing you know, she's doing it, but she's also singing it too. And matter of fact, we have a VHS video of her somewhere in the mess that we have between moving, and all that. So, she went to high school. She got into band. She got into marching band. There's, high school for her was, pretty fun. Lori and I would go to the games and help the parents with the it's called the third quarter feed. And that's where both bands go back into the cafeteria. And we had hot dogs and chips and stuff prepared and everything. And, so that was a lot of fun. And then, she graduated high school, and then she signed up for college at a local college there in her hometown, and she hated it. I don't know why, but she hated it. So next thing I know, I read on Facebook that my daughter says, I'm happy to announce that I've been accepted into Evangel University. And if anybody knows where Evangel is, that's in Springfield, Missouri. So I wasn't very happy about that because she didn't talk to Lori and I about it. She might have talked to Lori, but I had no clue. And I told her, I said, if something happens to you, you know how long it's going to take us to get to you? I said, did you think about that? She's like, oh, I'm sorry. But anyway, thank God everything worked out. We did a lot of praying, I tell you. She got a bachelor's degree in digital arts, and now she works for iHeartMedia here in Louisville. How many years, hon? 4 years. Yep. So right now she's working from home, and Andrew has a cat named Lou. He's a big old tomcat, and he bothers Tori the entire time she's home working. But she, then next thing I know, there's Andrew. Andrew's coming over, and we get to know him, and 2.5 years later, I got the talk that I have been anticipating. And but Andrew, he's a great guy. We love him to death. He's got a great sense of humor. He fits right in. Him and Tori are the cutest couple you ever see. And she gets, she doesn't get on him, but she picks on him, and it's funny, and he just laughs. But anyway, the entire time we were raising Tori and everything, during that time is when I got saved. And I think Tori was in high school when I got saved. And so I did a lot of praying for her. Lori, I know Lori and I, we both prayed for her a lot for her protection. And the one thing that we prayed about is for her to find a godly man that would treasure her and just, respect her and everything. And next thing you know, there's Andrew. So that was answered prayer, because Andrew comes from a Christian family. His dad is a former pastor. His mom is a worship leader. His brother Cass is a professional musician who also plays guitar in church, and it's an awesome family. But the main thing is pray for your children. I know that when I was growing up, my mom and my aunts were all praying for me because, believe it or not, I was pretty rowdy. So for those that don't know me, ask my wife. But by God's grace and love, I got saved, and then we started going to church, and then Tori got saved, and it was during youth group that we got to lead her to the Lord. So that was a special day for me. But in Proverbs 22:6 says, "Start off children in the way that they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it." So I highly recommend that you seek God in raising your children, and just let him guide you and keep his hand of protection on them and stuff too, especially the way things are nowadays with the schools and things like that. So you really gotta just really pray hard for your kids. And so now Lori and I, we await grandchildren. And we're not being silent about it either. Let's put it that way. So I told Andrew, I said, dude, I'm not getting any younger. I would like to play with grandkids out in the backyard and still be able to run. And and he's just like, I know. We're trying. So at least I can say he's trying. But anyway, happy Father's Day to all the dads. And just hope you all have a blessed day. And thank you, Pastor George.
Yeah. Good job. It's neat to have a father's perspective, especially different ones, and it's kind of neat to hear dads on Father's Day. And if you grew up with a great dad, and Tori got to grow up with a great dad, and if you've ever grown up with a great dad, it's just amazing what dads can do for you. The confidence, the safety you feel, and so something, and she did marry a great young man, and help a dad praying, especially if you have girls. Some of you have girls, pray over that God will protect that young man, whoever he is that God has for them. It's okay to start praying for that person, that God will protect them and just pour into their life, that they will be godly people. And what a heritage to know that your daughter or son marries somebody that loves the Lord, and they're going to serve the Lord most of their life. How incredible it truly is. And so I want to share with you today just a few things about Father's Day. And from 1 Thessalonians, it's not really a Father's Day It's not maybe a verse you would take out of being a Father's Day message, but there's something here that I want to share with you that I think is important for dads. And dads, today we have we're honoring men, we're honoring fathers. There are different kinds of men. There's the professional man, the lazy man, the woman's man, the music man, and anything else you can add man to pretty much today. And so we're living in that kind of day. God created man and woman, male, female. They are different, but they're equal in importance. And so today we're dealing with dads and even those men that have been mentors. I have some friends, and I have tried to mentor some young men along the way as well. And there's many men out there that need, or young men that need a father figure in their life. And a couple of weeks ago, I saw on Facebook that these two big burly men, it really spoke to me. It really touched me. And these young boys, about 12, 13, were involved in some of the protests, and they were doing things that they were about to get in trouble for. And these two big burly men were standing in front of, talking to these young men and talking to them about, you're going to end up in trouble, you're going to end up in the system, and was going through all these kinds of things with them, that here's what's going to happen if you go on this way, and you don't need to be doing that. And those little boys were listening intent to those men talking, and they weren't their dads. But those men took the occasion. I think these young boys need a man to step up. You see, women, you can't replace a man. I don't care if you think you're a man, you can't replace a male. You can't replace the man. There's just something there that God created us differently. And so our text is going to be how God desires for His man to be a God's man. So we're talking about God's man. 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, starting with verse 7. Verse 7. Nope, that's not right. I wrote that down. That it? Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I'm sorry. Let's read it from there. I got it wrong somewhere, but my secretary got it right. Let's read it from there. Just as nursing mother cares for her children, so we cared for you because we loved you so much. We were delighted to share with you not only the gospel of our God, but our lives as well. And that's only part of it, isn't it? Okay. All right, now I got it. I'm on the right page now. All right. I didn't mark it very well in my Bible. That's what happened. All right. Instead, we were starting verse 7. We were like young children among you, just as nursing mother cares for your children. So we cared for you because we loved you so much. We were delighted to share not only the gospel of God, but our lives as well. Surely you remember, brothers and sisters, our toil and hardship. We worked night and day in order not to be a burden to anyone while we preach the gospel of God to you. You are witnesses, and so is God, of how holy, righteous, and blameless we were among you who believed. For you know that we dealt with each of you as a father deals with his own children, encouraging, comforting, and urging you to live lives worthy of God who calls you into His kingdom and glory. All right, so God's man. Here's what we're going to talk about. A few things real quick about God's man. First of all, God's man is loving. So we loved you like a mother. That's interesting. We loved you like a mother. People love their mother, right? Moms get love. In fact, more people show up for church on Mother's Day than they do almost any other time. Sadly, Father's Day is the least attended service. Probably because it's in the summer and vacations happen. That might be one. That's why we'll explain it, right? That's how we explain it. But moms love. But Paul says, but we loved you. Talking about men, we loved you like a mother. And so God's man is loving. God's man is not afraid to be tender and loving. In his book, men, if you've not read the book, you need to write this down. Edwin Cole. It's called Maximize Manhood. It's an old book. I read it when I was in college. He says, a man must have a tough skin, but a heart of silk. A tough skin, but also a heart of silk. And that's very important that you do. You have to balance that out. In Ephesians chapter 6, verses 1 through 4, we have this. The Apostle Paul is writing, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. So the fathers have this, if you will, fathers have a delicate balance. Fathers have to discipline, but a father also has to have a tender side to just love those children. And if you got multiple children, you know you got to love them both equally. You have to figure out all kids have a different personality. I grew up with there was 5 of us siblings. Most of us had different personalities. And so we all had different ways of reacting, doing things. Some of us were more quieter. So I always say some of us' rebellion was more out there in the open. Some of us is more quiet behind the scenes. And so we all had different personalities, the way we did things. And so dads, if you have multiple, especially have to learn that balance. I want to discipline because I love you, but I also have to have this tender heart. I also sometimes have to allow kids to make a mistake. Sometimes you have to allow kids to grow from that mistake. You can't protect them completely. So a father, a godly man, has to learn that balance, and you have to correct as needed. But you have to tell your kids that you're proud of them, you love them, that you care for them. If you are married, you should tell your wife you love her in front of the kids. Let them hear you say, hey, I love you and I appreciate you. And so kids believe their dads can do about anything. All right, but they need to see that tender side as well, that their dad loves them. So you have to have a delicate balance. So God's man is loving. God's man is a loving creature. He cares so much for people. Secondly, God's man is transparent. Men are called to present the gospel to our family. A woman cannot lead the family. If they're single, you may have to have some help. But a man, God created, when He created the family of a male and female and the father's the one that sets the tone for the family. The family has to lead. Now what that means is, ladies, you're not responsible for your family. The man is. And man, that means we're responsible for how our family lives, moves through life, how we deal with people. That is a burden that the Lord put upon us. And so I will be judged how my family goes and how my family deals with it. Now what does that mean? What happens to society? So here, Satan knows this, that God is created male, female. He knows that the male's the one who is to lead the family, right? Not calls the family to submit. You're going to submit to my authority and you're going to do it the way that I want to. That's not what he's saying, guys. So we have to be careful about that. We have to lead in a gentle, loving, and caring way, but we are to lead the way that God desires us to lead. And so you have to be transparent. So it's proper for God's man to recognize, admit that we need help. And God to help us with the task of leading a family. And kids need to see their fathers becoming who God intended for them to be. They need to see that. They need to understand that. My dad understood his place in the church. My dad understood. He was not a preacher. He was not a Sunday school teacher. But when the buses needed to be repaired, that was my dad. When there's something out there that need to be worked on at the church, that was my dad. It's my job. I believe that's what God's called me to do. And my dad went and did it, and he did it just like it was him. He wanted to make sure that everything was safe and the buses and everything was running just right. And so that's who you are. And so you have to learn who you are according to God and what God's called you to do. And they need to see you doing that. If your job is to serve, let your kids see you serve. Let your kids see you take initiative at the church or wherever it is in the community and say, man, my dad goes out there and does this. My dad, because they will follow the dad. Kids will follow the dad. In fact, it is interesting that this statistic still holds today. 75% of girls will marry somebody like their dad. Your daughter married somebody like you. You can say, oh, me or you. But a lot of characteristics. So if you grew up with a good dad, there's a possibility you might. Now, it doesn't mean that's always true. I said that, and so it doesn't mean that person's perfect either. And so God's man, though, is transparent. And so dads cannot be replaced by anybody else. It is a man's job only. Men, it is okay to acknowledge that fathering is a difficult job. I can't imagine your job is very, very difficult. You're praying, you're believing God's going to do it. But our wives and kids will not only see the good things about us, they'll see the negative things about us as well. And those negative issues can also be a learning experience for our kids. It's proper to share experiences, good and bad, of the past with our kids so that they don't have to make the same mistakes. They can avoid those mistakes. At times, it's okay to say, you know what? When I was younger, I really made some bad decisions. And I don't want you to make those decisions. And here's a better way of making that decision. It's okay to say that and to deal with that. And so many want to just say, well, I don't want you to do it. I don't want you to talk about my past, and so I don't want you to do it. No, it's okay to talk about the mistakes you made. Kids need to learn how to handle failure. Sometimes you have to let them fail so that you can teach them. They need to learn finances and other difficulties in life as well. They need to know how their dad can handle it. What's going to happen? One of the things that brought my dad to the Lord, there was so many things that happened in the late 60s that caused my dad to come. My dad was a fix-it kind of guy. My dad in his heyday was one of the best mechanics. And it was amazing because even after he left the mechanic shop, he went to the coal mines and worked as a mechanic there, but people still came and wanted him to work on their car. And my brother and I was talking about this other day. I grew up, when I was little, I grew up in the era of muscle cars. And so sitting in my driveway a lot of times were Dodge Chargers, Mustangs, Camaros, Challengers. All these incredible, powerful vehicles were sitting in my driveway. And my dad is working on them and tuning them and getting them ready for these guys, some of them to go racing. And so my dad could fix it. But came a point in my dad's life when things of life started happening. My sister got sick. My grandmother died suddenly. His mom died suddenly. Other things began to happen. My oldest brother was in an accident. Didn't know if he'd make it because he's a hemophiliac. And there was all kinds of things that were happening that my dad finally got on his knees and said, I can't do this. I need God. And man, what an incredible thing to be able to tell your kids, you can't handle life on your own. You got to have God. And you need to beat that through your kids' head. You need God to do it. It's okay to push that on them. I've heard some parents say, well, I don't want to shove it down my kids' throats. Well, the scripture says do it. Train up a child in the way they should go. Tell them, this is what you should do. You should pray. You should read your Bible. You should go to church. Push it down their throat. Because if you don't push that down your throat, you know what? Satan's going to come along and push other things down their throat. That's just the way we're living. The spirit of the Antichrist we're talking about is already here, and that's going to be shoved down their throat. So you better figure out what you want them to know. And you better do it hard if you got little kids. And so God's man, though, must be transparent. Kids are watching the parents. What is important to you will be important to them. What's important to you will be important to them. And they're watching. And the interesting thing is, kids always want their dad to be proud of them. They love their mom. Even football players, big old burly guys will say, "Hi, Mom." But when you interview them and you listen to them, they'll say, "I want my dad to be proud of me. I'm just trying to make my dad proud." There's something about a dad that says, "I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you." There's something it does in a kid's life when they hear a dad say, "I'm proud of you." It really makes a difference. Third, God's man is hardworking. God's man is hardworking. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8 says something interesting. Anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Those are very harsh words. You want to know the importance of a dad? That one verse right there. God sees dads and fathers as important. That you provide for your family. That you take care of your family. That you make sure that your family is okay. Has a place to live. That there's food on the table. And so God's man is hardworking. My dad, as far as I can remember, didn't have a lazy bone in his body and had very little use for those that did. My father-in-law was about the same way. He just didn't have much use. He just didn't understand it. And so, and though it was times of playing and resting, he understood that. So dads, teach your kids that hard work is honorable and is part of following Jesus. Hard work is part of following Jesus. If you call yourself a Christian, we ought to be hardworking on our jobs. If we're lazy, people are going to notice it. And that goes against our witness. Dads, teach a balance in life and work, rest and play. It's okay to take those times of resting. It's okay to take those times. Kids should be taught, take time to rest, to refuel, and go do something fun with your family. Go do something fun with your family. So those things are important. And then God's man will have a positive influence in his home. In verse 12 of our text, it says we're encouraging, comforting, and urging. Positive influence is the name of the game. A positive influence. There are times to say no, but hopefully we can say yes as often as possible. Because you've taught your kids right, and the things that they will ask at times, you'll say, "Man, yes, go do that, that's fine." There are times to say no, but there's times to say yes. Is it any wonder now why we call God Abba Father? Jesus come and he introduced God as a father. And that's why. Because God our Father is loving, he's kind, he's nurturing like a mother, but he's correcting. Why? Because he loves us. Because he cares so much. Because he gave so much. He set aside, Jesus came, and God set aside, set his son aside and said, "If you will go and die for them, so I can show them that I love them, that I will give everything for them." That is the kind of God. That is the kind of father. Now, what if you didn't grow up with a father like that? What if you didn't grow up with that kind of father? You have a father in heaven that Jesus says he's your father. He'll be a husband to the husbandless. He'll be a father to the fatherless. And so we come along and help. Our great superintendent, Doug Clay, talks about, I've heard his story many times there. He talked about when he was about 10 years old, his dad died suddenly. And God began to put men around him through a Royal Rangers program. And then in college, there was men professors that would come alongside him and say, Doug, I'll help be your dad. And they mentored him. And what a healthy relationship he has now with his family. You see, God is a father to the fatherless. He comes alongside us. And even if we had a horrible father, we had a father that couldn't love us. We have a godly father who says, I'll love you. I'll show you what a dad is. And some of you that didn't have that kind of father have become great fathers. Why is that? Because you have a father in heaven that has taught us how to do that. Incredible father. Now, the devil knows this. He knows how to destroy society if he can destroy dads. If he can destroy men, he can destroy our society. Over half of the families today do not have a dad in the home. Our kids are being raised without fathers. And our society is paying a heavy price. Heavy price for it. The devil has convinced us that dads are not important. TV shows tell you, dads are not important. And dads are dumb, and dads are stupid, and dads don't really know anything. And then we have a society that comes along and says a woman can become a dad. No, they can't. Impossible. I know people are not going to like it if you're watching Facebook. I don't care. This is biblical. I will always preach the biblical family. And so we need dads. But the church needs dads too. The church, our kids need to see dads worshiping and singing to the Lord and hearing the Word of God and then going out and doing it and proclaiming Jesus. Our kids need to see those dads. Thank you for those that have stepped up and helped kids that don't have a dad. Thank you for grandfathers that pour into their kids' life, into grandkids' life. My hat's off to you. Thank you, granddads, grandfathers, for doing it. Another thing that I believe that is happening among our dads today, many young men are not growing up. They're not maturing. They're not maturing. Part of following Jesus is maturing. And when you become a dad, most of you can amen this, I'm sure. You have to set aside some of the dreams that you might have had. Because now you got kids and you got a family. That becomes part of maturing. I told my great nephew this week, I was fishing with him, and he's in high school, and he was talking about all the things he wanted to do. I said, buy all the toys you want before you get married. You might not get any of them. Get you a job before you get serious with anybody. Go do what you want while you're single. Get a great job. Then you get serious. You'll do it that way. You'll do it God's way. And he's in church playing the guitar on the worship team. And man, if you'll just do it, if we'll do it the way God desires. Young ladies that are single, look for that guy that's going to serve the Lord. Look for that guy that goes to the front of church or sits in church and worships and sings to the Lord. And so, dads, if you got young girls and young boys, just understand they're going to follow you. That's a heavy load, I know. What are you going to do? What are they going to be like? Because they're going to follow in your footsteps. And those little girls are going to marry somebody like you. It's a tough thing, but our fathers are needed. Jesus introduced God as a father figure. And so you destroy the men and dads, you destroy the family that God designed, and you begin to destroy society. So men, fathers, become God's man. Let God lead you. Pray over your family. Pray over your family. Pray that Jesus will have authority in your home. Give him the authority. Give him reign of your home and everything you watch and everything you listen to and everything you do. Invite the Lord in. Read scripture in your home and sing to the Lord in your home, and let the kids see you. Let the kids hear. Let the kids know you love them, you're proud of them. But also let them know when you fail. Man, I failed, and I'm human. But I'll make it better. I'll do right. And I'll live according to God's word. What a difference. What a difference. If you're single, pray for that man. God will give you a great man of God. If you're a man, pray that God, you want a lady, pray God will bring you a godly lady as well. Loves the Lord. What a difference you'll have. You've been watching by Facebook. Thank you. Happy Father's Day. I know some of our dads are probably watching this morning by Facebook. God bless you. We love you. And hope to see you next week. But hey, Dad, you're a great. Love on your kids. Love on your family. And we want to pray with you. If you need prayer about something, dads, I'd love to pray with you this week. Give me a call or contact me by email. God bless you. Thank you for watching.